I stand at my kitchen counter, grading algebra tests with a mechanical pencil that's been clicking the same rhythm for 19 years. The red ink bleeds across Jake Morrison's attempt at quadratic equations, another failing grade in a semester full of them. Outside, Albany's October wind rattles the windows of our Colonial, the same house Lauren and I bought when Eli was 3 and Harper was still learning to walk. 19 years. That's how long I've been married to a woman who could sell sand to a desert nomad. Lauren Collier, she kept her maiden name for business, can walk into a room and own it before she's said a word. Me? I'm the guy who explains polynomial functions to teenagers who'd rather be anywhere else. Nathan Collier, 47, the steady one. I hear Lauren's heels click across the hardwood upstairs, getting ready for another client dinner. Third one this week. She emerges in a black dress that costs more than my monthly car payment, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. "Don't wait up," she says, kissing my cheek without looking at me. Her perfume is different, something expensive and unfamiliar. The Meridian Group wants to discuss their Q4 campaign. Could run late. I nod, still grading papers. Drive safe. She's already grabbing her keys, her phone buzzing with a text that makes her smile in a way I haven't seen in months. The door closes with a soft thud, and I'm alone with Jake Morrison's mathematical disasters and the silence that's been growing thicker every day. The shift started about a year ago, subtle as a paper cut. Lauren began traveling more, client retreats in Miami, strategy sessions in Denver, weekend workshops in places that sounded more like vacation destinations than business venues. She'd come back tanned and energized, telling stories about boring presentations and exhausting networking events while showing me pictures of resort pools and sunset dinners. Her phone, once carelessly left on kitchen counters and bathroom sinks, now lives in her purse or under her pillow. When it buzzes during dinner, she excuses herself to handle a crisis that apparently requires 20 minutes of hushed conversation in our bedroom. I asked once, just once. Sitting in our bed after she'd returned from a team-building weekend in Scottsdale, I mentioned that she seemed distant. "You're being paranoid, babe." She turned toward me, her smile practiced and patient. "You need to trust me, or we're both going to suffocate in this marriage." The words hit like a diagnosis, not an explanation, an accusation. My concern became my character flaw. My questions became my problem. I didn't press it, but something cold settled in my chest, a knot that tightened every time she checked her phone at dinner or claimed another last-minute business trip. Now I watch her taillights disappear down Maple Street, and I realize I've been holding my breath. Jake Morrison's test sits in front of me, his failed attempts at solving for X bleeding red across the page. Some equations have solutions. Others just show you what's missing. Upstairs, Eli practices guitar in his room, the same 3 chords he's been struggling with for weeks. Harper's door is closed, probably FaceTiming friends or finishing homework she should have started hours ago. This is our life now, parallel routines that rarely intersect, conversations that dance around the growing spaces between us. I finish grading the stack of tests, mark another D- in my gradebook, and start loading the dishwasher. The routine feels automatic, muscle memory from nearly 2 decades of the same patterns. Lauren's wine glass sits on the counter, still holding a sip of the expensive Cabernet she opened before changing clothes. The glass has lipstick on the rim, a shade of red I don't recognize. The house settles around me with familiar creaks and sighs. Somewhere upstairs, a door closes. Someone flushes a toilet. Normal sounds of a normal evening in a normal family. But normal doesn't describe the weight in my chest, or the way Lauren's smile doesn't quite reach her eyes anymore. I've spent 19 years being the reliable one. The man who fixes the garbage disposal and remembers parent-teacher conferences and never forgets anniversaries. I believed that counted for something. I believed steady was enough. Maybe that was my first mistake. Tuesday night dinner. Eli pushes meatloaf around his plate while Harper scrolls through vacation photos from her friend Emma's family trip to Disney World. Lauren sits across from me, checking emails between bites, her attention split between our conversation and her glowing screen. "Mom, look at these pictures from Emma's trip." Harper holds up her phone, swiping through shots of roller coasters and character meet and greets. "Can we go to Florida for spring break this year?" Lauren glances up absently. "Maybe. We'll see what the budget looks like after Q1. "I can airdrop them to you," Harper says, already tapping her screen. "You never save the photos I send." "That's fine, honey." Lauren turns back to her phone, typing rapidly. Harper frowns at her screen, tapping and swiping. "It's not working. Let me try again." The living room TV, still connected to Lauren's phone from yesterday's Netflix session, suddenly flickers to life. Instead of Emma's Disney photos, a gallery appears on our 65-inch screen. The folder is labeled Cabo 4Q in Lauren's neat digital handwriting. The first image fills our screen, Lauren in black lingerie, taking a mirror selfie in what's clearly not our bedroom. The lighting is different, warmer, hotel lighting. "Oh," Harper whispers. I freeze, fork halfway to my mouth. Eli looks up from his meatloaf, his eyes widening. Lauren lunges for her phone, but Harper, confused and still trying to navigate the interface, accidentally swipes to the next photo. This one shows Lauren in bed with a man I don't recognize. Dark hair, younger than me, his hand on her bare waist. They're both naked, both smiling at the camera like this is the most natural thing in the world. "Mom?" Harper's voice cracks. Lauren snatches the phone from Harper's hands, her face flushed. The TV screen goes black. The dining room falls silent except for the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. "It's not what you think." Lauren's voice is steady, controlled. "Emma's older sister was having a bachelorette party. They were being ridiculous, taking joke photos. You know how those things get." She looks directly at me, her eyes clear and unflinching. "This is exactly the kind of misunderstanding that destroys families, Nate. Don't let your imagination run wild." Harper stares at her mother, then at me, then back at Lauren. "But Mom, that didn't look like—" "Harper." Lauren's voice sharpens. "Enough. It was a stupid joke between friends. Period." Eli hasn't said a word. He's looking at his plate, his jaw clenched, processing what he just saw with the uncomfortable awareness of a 17-year-old who knows more about than his parents want to admit. Lauren stands, smoothing her skirt. "I'm going to call Emma's mom right now and explain how her daughter's phone got mixed up with these inappropriate pictures. This is exactly why teenagers shouldn't have unrestricted access to social media." She walks toward the kitchen, already dialing, her voice shifting into the professional tone she uses with difficult clients. I hear her saying something about teenage pranks and borrowed phones and parental oversight, but I'm not listening to her performance. I'm staring at the black TV screen, replaying what I just saw. The intimacy in that second photo wasn't staged. The way that man's hand rested on Lauren's skin, the satisfied smile on her face. Those weren't joke photos from a bachelorette party. "Dad?" Harper's voice is small. I look at my daughter, 15 years old, still young enough to believe her mother's lies, but old enough to recognize the cracks in them. Her eyes are wide, confused, looking for me to make sense of what just happened. "Finish your dinner," I say quietly, but my own plate sits untouched. The meatloaf has gone cold, the mashed potatoes congealing into an unappetizing mass. Lauren's voice drifts from the kitchen, animated and defensive, spinning a story that gets more elaborate with each sentence. Eli pushes back from the table. "I've got homework." He leaves without another word, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Harper follows a few minutes later, her phone clutched in her hand, like evidence she's not sure she wants to possess. I sit alone at our dining room table, surrounded by the detritus of another family dinner. Lauren's wine glass still holds a sip of Cabernet. Her napkin is folded neatly beside her plate. Everything looks normal, domestic, intact. But something has shifted. The foundation we've built over 19 years, trust, assumption, the quiet understanding that we're on the same team, has developed a crack I can't unsee. Lauren returns from the kitchen, her phone call apparently finished. She sits back down, picks up her fork, and resumes eating as if nothing happened. "All sorted out," she says conversationally. "Kids and their phones, right?" They don't understand how these things can be taken out of context. I nod, cutting into my meatloaf with deliberate precision. The knife separates the meat cleanly, no resistance. "Right," I say. But inside, something has switched off. The part of me that wanted to believe her story, that needed to maintain the fiction of our marriage, has gone quiet. In its place, something colder has awakened. Something that observes rather than trusts. Something that remembers rather than forgives. I finish my dinner in silence, chewing mechanically while Lauren talks about her upcoming client presentation. She gestures with her fork, animated and confident, as if the last 10 minutes never happened. I listen and nod and ask appropriate questions. I clear the table and load the dishwasher. I kiss her goodnight when she heads upstairs early, claiming exhaustion from a long day. But I don't touch her. Not really. And I don't forget what I saw on that screen. Some things once seen can't be unseen. Some truths, once revealed, change the equation permanently. Lauren may have convinced herself she talked her way out of this, but she's made a critical error in her calculations. She's assumed I'm the same man who went to bed last night. I become invisible on purpose. It's surprisingly easy when you've spent 19 years being furniture in your own marriage. Lauren has always been the bright light in our house, the one who draws attention, commands rooms, fills silence with her presence. I've been the steady backdrop, reliable and unremarkable. Now I use that. 3 days after the dinner incident, Lauren stops pretending to be careful. She texts during breakfast, the phone propped against her coffee mug while she scrolls through messages that make her smile. She takes calls in our bedroom with the door barely closed, her voice dropping to intimate whispers that carry through the thin walls. I don't confront. I observe. Wednesday morning, I help my colleague Pete Ramirez fix his classroom computer. Pete teaches information systems, runs the school's IT department, and occasionally consults for local businesses on cybersecurity. While we're troubleshooting his network issues, I mention my concern about our home devices being vulnerable to hacking. Identity theft is everywhere these days, I say, keeping my voice casual. Lauren's got client information on her phone and laptop. I'm worried about data breaches. Pete nods sympathetically. Smart thinking. Corporate espionage is a real problem in marketing. Want me to run a security audit on your home network? I can set up some monitoring software, make sure nobody's accessing your devices remotely. That would be great. Pete comes over Saturday morning while Lauren's at her Pilates class. In 30 minutes, he installs keyloggers on our shared laptop, sets up GPS tracking on Lauren's phone through our family plan, and creates a mirrored backup of her text messages and emails that forwards to a secure account I can access from my work computer. This'll catch any suspicious activity, Pete explains, showing me the dashboard on my phone. If someone's trying to steal data, you'll know immediately. I thank him and delete the history from my browser. By Monday, I'm reading Lauren's messages in real time. The affair isn't subtle, it's brazen. His name is Marcus Webb, 34, a client from the Meridian Group. The relationship started 8 months ago during a strategy session in Denver. Since then, they've met in Miami, Phoenix, San Diego, and Cabo. Every business trip Lauren mentioned, every weekend conference and client retreat was a carefully orchestrated lie. The messages are explicit, detailed, and contemptuous. Marcus calls her insatiable. Lauren calls me clueless, and jokes about how I still set out her vitamins every morning like a good little house husband. But it's her conversation with her friend Diane that cuts deepest. Lauren. He actually asked if I was happy in our marriage. Can you believe that? Diane. What did you tell him? Lauren. The truth. That Nate's wallpaper. He'll never leave. Too much pride to explode, too little spine to walk away. He's comfortable being the victim. Diane. Brutal, but probably accurate. Lauren. I know it sounds awful, but I need this. Marcus makes me feel alive again. Nate makes me feel like I'm suffocating in suburban mediocrity. Diane. Just be careful. You don't want this blowing up your whole life. Lauren. It won't. Nate doesn't have it in him to make noise. He's too afraid of disrupting the kid's stability. He'll swallow it and pretend everything's fine. I screenshot the conversation, save it to my secure folder, and continue grading papers like nothing's wrong. That evening, I cook Lauren's favorite meal, herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables. She compliments the presentation, asks about my day, tells me about a challenging client meeting. We discuss Eli's college applications and Harper's upcoming piano recital. Normal conversation from a normal marriage. After dinner, she excuses herself to catch up on emails and disappears into our bedroom. Through the monitoring software, I watch her video chat with Marcus for 2 hours. They talk about their next rendezvous, planned for the following weekend in Chicago. She's told me she's attending a digital marketing summit. I pack her suitcase Thursday night, fold her clothes neatly, include the black lingerie she bought with our credit card 3 weeks ago. I kiss her goodbye Friday morning and wish her luck with her presentation. While she's in Chicago, I compile everything. Bank statements showing charges for hotels we never stayed at, restaurants in cities I've never visited, lingerie purchases and expensive dinners that coincide perfectly with her supposed business trips. I cross-reference her calendar with Marcus's social media posts, finding photos of him in Miami, Phoenix, and Cabo that match exactly with Lauren's travel dates. I create a timeline. 37 instances of documented deception over 8 months. I calculate the cost of her affair using our joint credit cards and checking account. $23,847 in charges directly related to hotels, flights, and gifts for Marcus. I don't rage, I don't drink, I don't punch walls or throw things. I organize the evidence into folders labeled by date and location. I back up everything to 3 different secure drives. I print the most damning conversations and store them in a safety deposit box at a bank across town. Sunday night, Lauren returns from Chicago with gifts for the kids and stories about innovative marketing strategies she learned at the summit. She's glowing, refreshed, more affectionate than she's been in months. She curls up next to me on the couch, rests her head on my shoulder while we watch a movie. I missed you, she says, her fingers tracing patterns on my chest. Missed you too, I reply, and mean it in a way she'll never understand. Because I have missed her, the version of her that existed before I learned who she really was. The woman I thought I married, who respected me enough to either love me or leave me honestly. But that woman never existed. What I'm holding is an actress, playing a role she's already written off. And now I know the script. Lauren falls asleep against my shoulder, her breathing soft and even. I stroke her hair and plan her destruction with the methodical patience of a man who's spent 47 years solving problems step by step. She thinks I'm wallpaper. She's about to learn that wallpaper sees everything, remembers everything, and never forgives. Monday morning, I meet with Sandra Hoffman at her law office downtown. Sandra specializes in high-asset divorce cases and comes recommended by Pete's brother-in-law, who used her services 3 years ago. Her office overlooks the Hudson River, all glass and steel and expensive leather furniture that speaks to her success rate. 19 years of marriage, 2 minor children, joint assets approaching $300,000. Sandra reviews my file while I sit across from her mahogany desk. Tell me about your wife's business. I slide a folder across the desk. Marketing consultant, independent contractor with several corporate clients. Her income varies, but she averaged $87,000 last year. Sandra flips through Lauren's tax returns, bank statements, and business records. Any prenuptial agreement? No. Good. New York is an equitable distribution state, which means the court divides marital property fairly, not necessarily equally. But given what you've shown me about the affair and financial misconduct, she looks up, her expression sharp. This is extensive documentation, Nathan. How long have you been gathering this? 3 months. Impressive. Most men come to me with suspicions and hurt feelings. You've built a case. She sets down the papers, leaning back in her chair. What are your goals here? I've thought about this question for weeks, lying awake while Lauren sleeps beside me, her phone buzzing with messages from Marcus that she thinks I can't see. Full custody of the children, equitable division of legitimate marital assets, and I want her to understand that actions have consequences. Sandra nods slowly. The custody piece is doable with this evidence. The financial misconduct angle is strong. She used marital funds for an extramarital affair, which courts don't look kindly on. But I need to ask, are you sure you want to pursue this aggressively? Sometimes it's better to negotiate quietly, avoid the public spectacle. She called me wallpaper, said I'd never fight back because I was too weak to make noise. I meet Sandra's eyes steadily. I want to prove her wrong. Understood. Let's talk strategy. For the next 2 hours, we construct the framework of Lauren's downfall. Sandra explains New York's fault-based divorce statutes, the impact of adultery on property division, and the court's approach to custody decisions involving moral fitness. She reviews every piece of evidence I've gathered, occasionally whistling softly at particularly damning text message threads. This conversation with her friend Diane, Sandra highlights the screenshot with a yellow marker. This is gold. It shows premeditation, contempt for the marriage, and complete disregard for the children's welfare. A judge will not respond well to this level of calculated deception. We draft the divorce petition, including a motion for emergency custody based on Lauren's use of marital assets for illegal activities. Sandra's paralegal creates exhibits from my evidence folders, 96 pages of photographs, bank records, text messages, and GPS data that paint a comprehensive picture of Lauren's affair. When do you want to file? Sandra asks. I check my calendar. Eli has his final college interview next Tuesday, virtual meeting with Columbia. Lauren promised to be there, show what a supportive family we are. I look up at Sandra. I want the papers served that morning, while she's on camera with the admissions officer. Sandra raises an eyebrow. That's theatrical. It's appropriate. She's been performing for months. Time for the curtain call. While Sandra handles the legal framework, I execute the financial strategy. Over the past month, I've been quietly moving assets into accounts Lauren doesn't monitor. I establish a college fund trust for Eli and Harper, transferring $50,000 from our joint savings account in small increments that won't trigger alerts. I roll over my 401k into a new account at a different bank, protecting my retirement from Lauren's potential claims. I document every penny Lauren has spent on her affair, creating a spreadsheet that cross-references credit card charges with her documented travel to meet Marcus. Hotel rooms in Miami, $2,847. Flights to Phoenix, $1,200. The black lingerie set she wore in those photos, $340 at Victoria's Secret, charged to our joint MasterCard the day before her trip to Cabo. The irony isn't lost on me. I'm using the same methodical approach I bring to teaching algebra, break complex problems into smaller, solvable parts, identify the variables, eliminate unknowns, show your work. Wednesday evening, I research Lauren's employer. The Meridian Group has a strict non-fraternization policy for consultants working with clients. Their employee handbook, available on their website, explicitly prohibits personal relationships that could compromise professional judgment or create conflicts of interest. Violation results in immediate termination without severance. I craft an anonymous email to their HR department, professionally worded and thoroughly documented. I include screenshots of Lauren's messages with Marcus, time-stamped photos from their trips, and a detailed timeline showing how their personal relationship coincided with her work on Meridian's account. I schedule the email to send automatically next Tuesday at 11:15 a.m. Friday night, Lauren comes home late from what she claims was a client dinner. She's wearing a new dress, her makeup freshly applied, smelling like expensive wine and someone else's cologne. She finds me in my study, grading tests. "Sorry I'm late," she says, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "The Meridian meeting ran long. Marcus had some last-minute concerns about the fourth quarter campaign." I look up from my papers, meeting her eyes with the same expression I've worn for months. Mild interest, complete trust, absolute obliviousness. "No problem. I saved you some dinner." She smiles, the same practiced expression she's used to cover her lies for 8 months. "You're the best, Nate. I don't know what I'd do without you." "Hopefully you'll never have to find out," I reply, turning back to my grading. She laughs softly, thinking she understands the joke. She doesn't realize I'm being literal. In 5 days, Lauren's performance ends. The audience she's been playing to, me, the kids, her friends, her colleagues, will finally see the real show. She thinks I'm too weak to make noise. Next Tuesday, she discovers just how loudly wallpaper can scream when it decides to peel itself off the wall. Tuesday morning, 10:47 a.m. I sit in my study, laptop open, watching the cursor blink in my email draft window. Across the hall, Lauren adjusts her blouse in the hallway mirror, preparing for Eli's Columbia interview. She's chosen her outfit carefully, professional but warm, the perfect balance for a supportive mother helping her son secure his future. "15 minutes, Eli," she calls upstairs. "Make sure your camera angle is good." I listen to her orchestrate our family's performance, the same way she's orchestrated everything else for the past 8 months. Today, the script changes. At 10:59, I click send on the email to Sandra Hoffman. 4 words: execute the filing now. At 11:01, while Lauren settles into the chair beside Eli's desk, my phone buzzes with a confirmation text. "Papers filed. Process server en route. ETA 11:15. Lauren smooths her hair and smiles at the laptop camera. "Good morning, Mr. Davidson. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with Eli today." The Columbia admissions officer, a tired-looking man in his 50s, returns her smile professionally. "Of course, Mrs. Collier. Eli's application is impressive. I'm looking forward to learning more about his goals." I watch from the doorway as my son begins discussing his passion for engineering, his voice steady despite the nerves I know he's feeling. Lauren nods encouragingly, occasionally asking thoughtful questions that demonstrate her engagement with his academic aspirations. She's good at this. The supportive mother role comes naturally to her, probably because it's one of the few performances that actually requires her to care about someone besides herself. At 11:14, the doorbell rings. Lauren glances toward the sound, her smile faltering slightly. I'm already moving toward the front door. "Process server for Lauren Collier," the woman on my porch says quietly, holding a manila envelope. "She's in a meeting. Can I sign for it?" "If you're the husband, yes. You're Nathan Collier?" "I am." She hands me the papers, has me sign her clipboard, and disappears back to her car. I close the door and walk upstairs to Lauren's office, the envelope heavy in my hands. Through the open door, I can hear Eli explaining his senior project to Mr. Davidson. Lauren listens intently, occasionally nodding or jotting notes on a pad beside her elbow. Which is why I think Columbia's engineering program would be the perfect fit for my interests in sustainable design, Eli concludes. "Excellent," Mr. Davidson replies. "Now, I'd like to ask about your family support system. How have your parents contributed to your academic development? Lauren's face lights up. This is her moment, her chance to showcase the stable, loving home environment that will make Eli an attractive candidate. Well, Mr. Davidson, Nathan and I have always believed... Her laptop chimes with an incoming email. The notification pops up in the corner of her screen, visible to both her and the admissions officer. Urgent. Divorce proceedings. Collier v. Collier. Her words stop mid-sentence. Her face goes pale. I'm sorry, she says to the screen, her voice suddenly tight. There seems to be some kind of technical issue. Give me just one moment. She clicks on the email, and I watch her eyes scan the first lines of Sandra's message. Mrs. Collier, please be advised that divorce proceedings have been filed against you in Albany County Family Court. Attached, you will find copies of all relevant documents, including 96 pages of supporting evidence. Mom? Eli's voice carries concern. Is everything okay? Lauren's hands shake slightly as she scrolls through the attachment list. I can see her reading the file names. Text messages, Collier Web Communications. Financial records, unauthorized marital expenditures. Photographic evidence, Cabo trip, October 2024. Mrs. Collier? Mr. Davidson's voice comes through the laptop speakers. We can reschedule if this isn't a good time. Lauren forces her professional smile back into place, but it's trembling at the edges. No, everything's fine. Just a small emergency. Please continue with Eli. He's worked so hard for this opportunity. But her phone is buzzing now. Text messages, probably from friends who've received copies of the court filing. Her work email pinging with notifications. The sound of her carefully constructed world beginning to collapse in real time. At 11:23, her phone rings. The caller ID shows Meridian Group, HR Department. She stares at the screen, her face cycling through confusion, realization, and fear. She declines the call, but it starts ringing again immediately. I'm so sorry, Mr. Davidson, she says to the laptop, her voice cracking. I'm going to need to step out for just a moment. Eli, you continue. You're doing beautifully. She practically runs from the room, phone pressed to her ear. I hear her voice from the hallway, high and defensive. This is Lauren. What's this about? There must be some mistake. Eli looks confused, glancing between his laptop screen and the empty chair where his mother was sitting. Mr. Davidson, I apologize for the interruption. My mom's usually very professional. Not to worry, Eli. These things happen. Why don't we continue discussing your extracurricular activities? I step into the room and take Lauren's chair. Sorry about that. I'm Nathan, Eli's father. Lauren's dealing with a work emergency. The rest of the interview passes smoothly. Eli recovers his composure and finishes strong, discussing his volunteer work and leadership roles. Mr. Davidson seems impressed, making positive notes and asking follow-up questions that suggest genuine interest. From downstairs, I can hear Lauren's voice getting progressively louder and more frantic. Phone calls to Sandra's office, to Marcus, to her friend Diane. Each conversation shorter than the last as people either refuse to take her calls or hang up when they realize what's happening. Well, Eli, Mr. Davidson concludes, I'm very impressed with your application and our conversation today. You should hear from us within the next few weeks. Thank you so much for your time, Eli replies. Columbia has always been my first choice. After the laptop closes, Eli turns to me with concern written across his face. Dad, what's going on? Mom looked like she'd seen a ghost. From downstairs comes the sound of Lauren's voice, no longer trying to maintain composure. You can't just fire me over anonymous accusations. I demand to speak to someone with actual authority. I look at my 17-year-old son, this young man who's about to start his adult life, and realize this is the moment his childhood officially ends. Your mother and I are getting divorced, Eli. She's been having an affair for the past 8 months. I filed the papers this morning. His face goes through the same progression I watched Lauren's go through. Confusion, realization, and finally, something that looks almost like relief. I kind of figured, he says quietly. Harper and I both did. The way she's been acting, the phone calls, staying out late. We just didn't know how to ask. From downstairs, "You don't understand. This is all a misunderstanding. My husband is obviously having some kind of breakdown." Eli winces at the sound of his mother's desperation. "What happens now?" I put my hand on his shoulder, feeling the weight of 19 years of trying to protect him and Harper from exactly this moment. Now, we find out what we're all really made of. The Albany County Family Court smells like disinfectant and broken promises. I sit beside Sandra at the petitioner's table, watching Lauren whisper urgently with her attorney across the aisle. She's hired Charles Morrison, a divorce specialist known for aggressive tactics and media manipulation. He's expensive, flashy, and completely outmatched by the evidence Sandra has compiled. Judge Patricia Henley enters the courtroom, and we rise. She's in her early 60s, silver-haired, with the no-nonsense expression of someone who's seen every possible variation of marital breakdown. She reviews our case file while we settle back into our seats. "This is a motion for temporary custody in the matter of Collier versus Collier," Judge Henley begins. "Mr. Collier seeks full custody of both minor children based on allegations of adultery, financial misconduct, and abandonment of parental responsibilities. Mrs. Collier contests these allegations. Counselor Hoffman, present your case." Sandra stands, her presentation crisp and methodical. She introduces the evidence systematically. The documented affair spanning 8 months, the misappropriation of $23,847 in marital funds for adultery-related expenses, and the text message conversations showing Lauren's contempt for her family responsibilities. Your Honor, Exhibit 37 shows Mrs. Collier's own words to her friend Diane Patterson. Sandra reads from the highlighted text. "I need this affair. Marcus makes me feel alive again. Nate makes me feel like I'm suffocating in suburban mediocrity." She looks up at the judge. "This demonstrates a calculated decision to prioritize personal gratification over family stability." Morrison objects twice, unsuccessfully. The evidence is too comprehensive, too well documented. Judge Henley examines the exhibits with the thoroughness of someone who understands that children's lives hang in the balance. "Mrs. Collier," the judge addresses Lauren directly, "these text messages and financial records appear to be authentic. Do you contest their accuracy?" Lauren half rises from her seat, her voice tight. "Your Honor, my husband has obviously been spying on me, violating my privacy, building some kind of elaborate case to destroy my reputation. This feels like harassment, not legal proceedings." "Mrs. Collier, adultery is grounds for divorce in New York State. The method by which your husband discovered your extramarital affair doesn't negate its existence. Do you deny having a sexual relationship with Marcus Webb while married to the petitioner?" Lauren's silence stretches for 10 seconds. Morrison leans over to whisper in her ear, but she doesn't respond. "No, Your Honor. I don't deny it." Judge Henley makes a note in her file. "And do you contest the financial records showing expenditures of marital funds for this relationship?" Another pause. "No, Your Honor." "Very well. Mr. Morrison, does your client wish to present any evidence regarding her fitness as a parent or her commitment to the children's welfare?" Morrison stands, attempting damage control. "Your Honor, Mrs. Collier has been a devoted mother for 15 years. One mistake in her marriage doesn't negate her love for her children or her ability to provide them with a stable home environment." "Counselor," Judge Henley's voice carries an edge, "your client's own documented statements refer to feeling suffocated by family life and describe her husband as someone she manipulates because he doesn't have the spine to leave. This suggests a pattern of deception that extends beyond the marriage into the family structure itself." She flips through more exhibits. Furthermore, the financial records show Mrs. Collier prioritized funding her extramarital relationship over her children's college savings accounts. She withdrew money from the family's education fund to pay for hotel rooms with her paramour. That doesn't suggest devotion to her children's welfare. Morrison tries again. Your Honor, if we could consider mediation. Counselor, I've reviewed 96 pages of evidence suggesting calculated deception over an 8-month period. This isn't a case for mediation. This is a case for consequences. Judge Henley closes the file and looks directly at Lauren. Mrs. Collier, I'm granting temporary full custody to your husband, effective immediately. You'll have supervised visitation rights 2 weekends per month, pending a full custody evaluation. Additionally, you're enjoined from accessing any joint marital accounts until the financial discovery process is complete. Lauren's face crumbles. Your Honor, you can't take my children away. They need their mother. Mrs. Collier, your children needed their mother to prioritize their welfare over her personal desires. You made a different choice. These are the consequences of that choice. The gavel falls with a sound like a coffin lid closing. Outside the courthouse, Lauren approaches me while Sandra loads files into her car. Her mascara has run, leaving dark tracks down her cheeks. She looks smaller somehow, diminished without the confidence that used to armor her. Nate, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake, but I love you. I love the kids. Don't destroy our family over one stupid decision. I study her face, looking for any trace of the woman I married, but all I see is desperation and damage control. You destroyed our family 8 months ago, Lauren. I'm just cleaning up the debris. The kids need stability. They need both parents. Harper's 15. This is a crucial time for her development. You can't just cut me out of their lives. I'm not cutting you out. The court gave you supervised visitation. That's more than you deserved. Her expression shifts, the pleading mask slipping to reveal something uglier underneath. This is about your ego, isn't it? You couldn't handle that I found someone who actually made me happy. So you're punishing me for wanting more than suburban mediocrity. There it is. The real Lauren, the one who's been hiding behind performance and manipulation for months. The one who thinks she's the victim in this story. No, Lauren. This is about consequences. You called me wallpaper, said I'd never fight back because I was too weak to make noise. You were wrong. I walk away, leaving her standing on the courthouse steps. Sandra drives me home in comfortable silence, the custody order sealed in her briefcase like a trophy. At home, Harper sits at the kitchen table doing homework. She looks up when I enter, her expression guarded. How did it go? You're staying with me. Your mother has visitation rights every other weekend. Harper nods slowly, processing this information. Is she going to be okay? The question surprises me with its maturity. At 15, Harper is already thinking like an adult, considering consequences beyond her own immediate comfort. That's up to her. I don't want to see her right now, Harper says quietly. Is that wrong? I sit down beside my daughter, this young woman who's been forced to grow up too quickly because of choices she didn't make. No, honey, it's not wrong. You need time to process what's happened. When you're ready to see her, we'll arrange it. When you're not ready, we won't. Eli comes home from his after-school job at the campus bookstore, dropping his backpack by the door with his usual casual disregard for organization. He looks at both of us, sitting at the kitchen table, and immediately understands that official news has arrived. So? Full custody, I tell him. Your mother has supervised visits every other weekend if you want to see her. He considers this for a moment, then shrugs. Maybe eventually. Right now, I just want to focus on college applications and pretend none of this happened. Fair enough. That evening, I cook dinner for 3 instead of 4. The portions look wrong on our plates, too much food in too much space. We eat quietly, the absence of Lauren's voice making our dining room feel hollow. But there's also something else, a sense of honest quiet, of conversations that don't require navigation around hidden landmines. For the first time in months, nobody's phone buzzes with secret messages during our meal. After dinner, Harper helps me clean up while Eli practices guitar upstairs. The same 3 chords he's been struggling with, but they sound cleaner now, more confident. "Dad?" Harper's voice is tentative. "I'm proud of you." I look at my daughter, surprised. For not just yelling and screaming like other divorced parents do, for proving she was wrong about you without becoming someone scary. She dries a plate carefully, avoiding my eyes. "I was worried you'd fall apart or get mean, but you didn't. You just solved the problem." I realized that this is what I wanted most. Not just to win against Lauren, but to show my children that strength doesn't have to look like anger, that justice doesn't require cruelty. "Thanks, sweetheart." Later, after the kids are in bed, I sit in my study grading papers. The same algebra tests, the same red ink marking the same mathematical errors. But the rhythm feels different now, purposeful instead of automatic. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "You destroyed everything. I hope you're satisfied." I delete the message without responding and continue grading. Some equations have solutions. Others just show you what's missing. Tonight, for the first time in 8 months, I know exactly what I'm working with. 6 months later, I sit at our kitchen table, my kitchen table now, setting out 4 plates from habit before remembering to put one back. The morning light cuts through the windows at an angle that's become familiar, comfortable. Outside, the maple tree I planted when Eli was 8 has started turning orange, marking another autumn in a life that's finally found its equilibrium. Harper comes downstairs wearing her cross-country uniform, her hair pulled back in the practical ponytail of someone who's stopped caring about impressing anyone. She's grown 3 inches since the divorce, shot up like a plant finally getting enough sunlight. "Morning, Dad." She grabs an apple from the bowl, checks her watch. "Can you pick me up after practice?" I don't want to take the bus. "Of course." "What time?" 5:30. "And Dad?" "Thanks for letting me skip the visitation this weekend. I'm still not ready." I nod, buttering toast that I'll eat because my body needs fuel, not because I'm particularly hungry. "When you're ready, you'll let me know." She kisses my cheek and heads for the door, calling goodbye to Eli upstairs. The sound of her footsteps fades down the driveway, replaced by the familiar morning quiet of a house that's learned to function without performance. Eli appears in the kitchen wearing his Columbia sweatshirt. Early admission, full scholarship. The interview that was interrupted by his mother's world collapse turning out to be his golden ticket. He's different now, more serious but somehow lighter, like he's stopped carrying weight that was never his to bear. "Got that calculus test today," he says, grabbing his coffee mug. Black, no sugar, the same way I drink mine. "You ready for it?" "Yeah. Mrs. Patterson's tests are tough but fair. If you know the material, you'll be fine." He pauses at the door, looking back. "Kind of like life, right? If you do the work, show your steps, you get the right answer eventually." After he leaves, I sit alone with my coffee and yesterday's mail. A letter from Lauren's attorney about finalizing the property division. A notice from Harper's school about parent-teacher conferences. A credit card statement showing the modest, predictable expenses of a man who pays for his own hotel rooms. I don't miss the chaos. I thought I would. 19 years of partnership leaves patterns that are hard to break. But the silence that terrified me in those first weeks has become something else. Not emptiness, but space. Room to breathe without monitoring the emotional temperature of someone who was always performing for an audience I couldn't see. The doorbell rings, interrupting my coffee and contemplation. Through the window, I see Diane Patterson on my porch, Harper's mother's former best friend, the one who encouraged Lauren's affair and helped her justify the destruction of our family. I consider not answering, but curiosity wins. Nathan. Diane's voice is careful, apologetic. I know you probably don't want to see me, but I wanted to apologize. For my part in everything. I study her face, looking for the performance cues I've learned to recognize. But she just looks tired, older than she should at 43. Come in. We sit in the living room, the same room where Lauren used to hold court during her dinner parties, charming everyone with stories that I now know were carefully edited versions of her double life. I've been thinking about what I did, Diane says, her hands twisted in her lap. How I encouraged her, told her she deserved to be happy, that you'd understand eventually. I was wrong, Nathan. I was so wrong. Why are you telling me this? Because my husband found out about my own affair last month. The one I was hiding while I was helping Lauren hide hers. She laughs bitterly. Turns out destroying other people's marriages is a gateway drug to destroying your own. I don't feel satisfaction or vindication, just a tired recognition of patterns repeating themselves. Tom filed for divorce yesterday, she continues. Used your lawyer, actually. Sandra Hoffman. She's very thorough. She is. He had everything documented, just like you did with Lauren. Photos, texts, financial records. 8 months of evidence compiled while I thought I was being clever. Diane looks around our living room, taking in the family photos that now include only 3 faces. I keep thinking about what Lauren used to say about you, that you were passive, that you'd never fight back. She was so sure you'd just absorb it. She was wrong. She was. And now I understand what Tom meant when he said the betrayal wasn't the worst part. It was the arrogance, the assumption that we were too weak or too stupid to fight back. Diane meets my eyes. I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm sorry I helped her destroy your family. After she leaves, I return to the kitchen and finish my coffee. The house settles around me with its familiar morning sounds, the refrigerator cycling on, the grandfather clock marking time, the distant hum of suburban life continuing its reliable patterns. I don't forgive Diane. Forgiveness suggests that her choices didn't fundamentally alter the trajectory of my family's life. But I understand her in a way I couldn't 6 months ago. People make destructive choices when they convince themselves that consequences only apply to other people. That evening, after Harper's practice and Eli's calculus study session, we sit down to dinner. Just the 3 of us. No empty chair, no careful navigation around forbidden topics. We talk about Harper's upcoming math competition, Eli's plans for his gap year, my decision to apply for the department chair position I've avoided for years because Lauren said it would make me boring and administrative. You should do it, Dad, Harper says, twirling spaghetti around her fork. You're good at organizing things, solving problems, and you don't have to ask anyone's permission anymore. The casual wisdom of 15-year-olds. She's right, of course. For the first time in 2 decades, my decisions only need to make sense to me and the kids. The liberation is still new enough to feel strange. Later, while Harper and Eli work on homework upstairs, I sit in my study with a stack of papers that need grading. But instead of diving into polynomial equations, I find myself thinking about the question I've been avoiding for months. What kind of man does it make me that I feel no guilt about what I did to Lauren? I destroyed her life systematically, methodically, with the same attention to detail I bring to lesson planning. I didn't just divorce her, I dismantled her entire existence. Her job, her reputation, her financial security, her relationship with her children, her faith in her own ability to manipulate people into accepting her version of reality. A year ago, the man I used to be would have been horrified by what I've become. Nathan the pushover, Nathan the accommodating husband, Nathan who always chose peace over confrontation, wouldn't recognize the person who planned Lauren's public destruction with such cold precision. But that Nathan was built on a lie. The assumption that being good meant absorbing other people's cruelty without consequence. The belief that strength always looked like accommodation, that love meant accepting disrespect as the price of keeping families intact. Lauren called me wallpaper, but wallpaper sees everything. It witnesses every conversation, every betrayal, every moment when people reveal who they really are. And wallpaper remembers. She lied in color, vibrant, elaborate, artistic deceptions that painted over reality with whatever narrative served her needs. I answered in black and white, documentation, evidence, facts that couldn't be argued with or explained away. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. I know you're reading this. Please, just talk to me. The kids need both parents. I recognize the desperation, the same tone Lauren used outside the courthouse 6 months ago. But I also recognize the manipulation, the assumption that my concern for our children can be weaponized against my commitment to consequences. I delete the message and block the number. Tomorrow, Harper has a cross-country meet. Eli has his college interview with Northwestern. I have papers to grade and a department meeting about curriculum changes. Normal life in a house that's learned to function without lies. Some people call what I did revenge, others call it justice. I call it algebra, solving for x when x turns out to be the variable that was destroying everything else in the equation. Lauren was wrong about me being too weak to fight back, but she was right about one thing. I am wallpaper. I'm the constant background against which other people's true characters are revealed. And wallpaper, once it decides to peel itself off the wall, takes everything with it. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.